with the basically emergency life, whether it's a shelter, hospital, police station, that type of thing when it comes to the loss of life. So they're going to be designed to withstand a higher wind speed compared to, let's say, a shed. So that kind of gives you a little bit of where ASC 7-16 is going to. Now, but a lot of people are like, well, okay, where was it before? So I'm going to turn it over to Chino. And Chino, kind of, if you don't mind, can you explain where we came from a little bit to get to this point?
So yeah, Mr. McCabe, pretty much, is it the next slide, brother? Yeah, there we go. So guys, with our ASCE 7-5 or 7-10, pretty much this is what we're used to, what we've always done pretty much to get our equations and everything. As you guys can see, we have 3 zones in our roof, right, which is the field, zone 1, zone 2, our perimeter, and zone 3, our corners. And guys, as you guys can tell, it's going to be a big change that we're going to show you in a couple slides is that square corner, right? That's what we used to in that square corner, pretty much lines up perfectly with our perimeter, right? But also that being said is the formula, pretty much the perimeter half sheet table that we got on the right where Mr. McCabe's cursor is on. So GAF kind of made it very simple for us. If a building's width is less than 200 feet wide, but it's 0 feet to 34 feet high.
Can you roof a building 0 feet?
Pretty much. Yeah. I don't know, is that a parking lot? Is that a roof? So we only need 1 half sheet, guys, right? 1 half sheet in the perimeter. Now, if the building is, once again, less than 200 feet wide and greater, and then it's 35 feet to 100 feet high, now we need 2 half sheets, right? GAF made it very simple for us just to get this thing going. The only time we've got to go with our formula calculations is if our building is greater than 200 feet wide or if the building height is greater than 100 feet, right?
Hey, Stephen, we had somebody made a comment. The image is blurry coming on your screen. I don't know if that's them or us. Or... Go ahead, Gino.
So now here comes with the calculation, guys. And once again, if any of those numbers exceed the 200 wide or 100 foot tall buildings, we got to go with our math equation, right? Which is 0.1 times the building width or 0.4 with the building height. And whichever number is the smallest, that's what we're going to use for our perimeter, right? And once again, this was our calculations we had to do here, Mr. McCabe. But now, moving forward with ASCE 7-16, we don't do that anymore. It's always going to be a math equation. Doesn't matter the roof's height. We have to do our math equation, never the width, just the height. Now, as Stephen showed you guys with the 7-10, the building height at 34 feet high, once again, all we need is 1 half sheet if it's less than 200 feet wide. 1. Now with the new 7-16, look at where we at with 34 feet high.
Again, don't shoot the messenger. We didn't come up with this, guys.
And this is kind of what, when we show this, guys are like installers, right? Or guys out in the field, their heads explode. It's like, this is crazy.
And the whole thing is and our expert out here will talk to this Joan Crow. Roofs aren't blowing off. It's more due to installation errors. So again, this is coming out of left field. So,
well, once again, guys, this is something that you got to use that math equation always when you're going to do your system now. But once again, it's always the height, right? Height to the building. Now, Mr. McCabe, I don't know if you could help us out with this or someone else, but what is going to happen when the building is greater than 60 feet tall? What happens there? You're not on mute, are you, McCabe?
No. So when you get to 60 feet or taller, nice try, Gino. I was not on mute that time, so I appreciate that. So if it's greater than 60 feet tall, we're going to actually revert back to the ASC 7-10. So everybody's like, yippee, right? Yeah. But as an FYI, your attachment rates are going to be increased because your uplift pressures are going to be higher. So they're going to be significantly higher than what we're doing right now. So a lot of what we're going to be discussing is that we can't give you, as Chino mentioned, we can't give you, hey, it's going to be for every job, you're going to have this amount of fasteners and everything else. This is going to have to be actually designed and calculated. So it's something that's going to be on a job-by-job basis. But remember, ASC 7-16, when it's 60 feet or taller, we're going to revert to the ASC 7-10, but your number of fasteners and your wind uplift pressures are going to be way up.
So,
now,
Steve, just so we can clarify this real quick, we talk a number of fasteners. Let's say my fasteners, everybody's used to 12 inches on center. Those could actually go to 6 inches on center on that 60-foot high building, correct?
That's correct.
Depending on the job, yeah. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
So I know when Gino first saw this, he took a snapshot and he was just like, "Oh my gosh, I've got way too many perimeter sheets." So what does this mean? Gino mentioned there is a calculation to it. So first calculation is it's always going to be 0.6 of the height. So what do we mean by that is you're going to multiply the height of the building by 0.6, and then that will give you the length of the corner, okay? Then you're going to multiply the height of the building by 0.2. That will give you the width of the corner. So you can see here in the corner, your corner enhancement, where your zone 3 is going to be shaped like an L. Okay, that's totally different, right? So remember that formula is 0.6 of the height, 0.2 of the height. That will give you the shape of the L, or that zone 3. Now
remember, guys, because I'm going to ask you about it, and it's going to be an awkward silence, or you guys are typing it in. All right, so remember that.
So the next formula is for zone 2, and the nice thing is they did keep it consistent. So zone 2 perimeter is going to be 0.6 of the height. So that's going to be the 0.6 of the height. And then we're all familiar with zone 1. That's also going to be 0.6 of the height. So as you can see here, you have zone 1 and zone 2, 0.6 of the height as you go in from the outside of the building. But now, making an introduction with ASC 7-16 is zone 1 prime. And this is whatever is left. Okay, so this is mind-boggling because now we have another zone 1. So on some jobs, this may mean nothing, depending on the size of the job. Other jobs, maybe you may actually have fewer attachment because maybe your wind uplift requirements at that location is less. But once again, this is on a job-by-job basis, and you need to make sure you have calculations to show that. So with that said, that is what the area is. So we can't stress enough the formula because this is the groundwork for everything we do. So don't forget, 0.6 of the height, and 0.2 of the height gives you zone 3, 0.6 of height zone 2, 0.6 of height zone 1, and lastly, whatever's left is zone 1 prime. Okay, so Gino, I think you wanted to test them out, right?
So, Stephen, I kid you not, brother. I was with my 11-year-old and my 8-year-old at our kitchen table last night, making sure that I was explaining it to them.
And they're like, what?
Just to make sure. And actually, they got it after the second time I showed it.
So Jaden actually did it for you.
You did it for me,
yeah.
All right? So once again, guys, Mr. McCabe actually gave you guys the formula, right? So once again, put it in the chat box or in the Q&A, whatever. Is once again, what is the formula to get the length of my L shape, guys? What is that formula? What have I got to multiply? Type it in, please.
We should have a theme of Jeopardy playing in the background.
Well, it's Mr. McCabe. I told him he's the muscle, and he's just failed on that. Any response, Mr. McCabe? Anybody give us any answers?
Okay,
Yes.
They're starting to come in hot.
No.
Got Jack saying building height times 0.06, 0.6 of the building height from Nate. Chris is saying 0.6, 0.2. Chris is.
We had an overachiever there.
It was OOPD. That's
So, perfect, guys. So, yes, 0.6, the building height to get the length of our L shape, and 0.2 for the width, once again. Now, once again, I'm going to ask you again. And I know, guys, we're keep asking you. You're probably like, all right, we get it. But trust me, sometimes it gets complicated, right? So now for my perimeter, what's my equation for that, guys? Please respond just like you guys did earlier. What is my equation that I need for my perimeter?
Okay, Jack jumped in 0.6. Chris, 0.6. 0.6 from Kyla. Carla, 0.6 of the height. 0.6
Beautiful.
of the building height.
Nice.
These guys could teach this class.
I think we're done. We can wrap it up. Now, we're going.
See, now, how long did it take for you guys? It took you like 3-4 months, and your kid took only twice to get it? There's,
Well, we only had one marker and no calculator. We had those speed things, right? So, all right. The next thing, guys, is I want to go with my zone 1, right? My exterior. What's my equation for there? Perfect. Now, is there an equation for the interior zone 1 prime? Is there a math equation for that? No. Man, Chris is on it.
Wow, yeah.
So, perfect. So now I want you guys to design this roof for me, guys, right? So, Mr. McKibb, can you put that up there? So, everyone, my roof, the height is 31 feet high.
31?
30 feet high, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the heck I was looking at. It's 30 feet high, right? So, guys, with the equation, and you got now the height of the building, what's the length of my L shape? Can anybody tell me? And don't have me do math, guys. I always come up with green.
Yeah, we've done this with you before. Perfect.
Perfect. 18 feet. Perfect. You got it, Mr. McCabe.
nice.
So we got our length, right? So now, what I want to do next is get the width. Can you guys give me the equation and give me the answer?
And that's for the corner.
For the corner. Correct. Beautiful. 6 feet. Awesome. So that's our L shape. Next step, guys, zone 2. Give me that equation and the answer for that. And guys, the reason I'm having you guys do it, if you guys are anything like me, it's great when someone shows it to me, but it's easier for me when I do it myself. 18. Beautiful. Got that, Mr. McCabe?
Yes, sir.
Now, before I move forward, Mr. McCabe, I kind of want to show him something that I kind of learned while we were messing with this for so long. Is if you guys see the length of the L shape, it matches up perfectly with the perimeter between the perimeter and zone 1. You know what I mean? So that to me is something that's also helpful. So if your L shape is way bigger than your perimeter, something went wrong with our calculation, so you might want to double back on that. So now we're going in with our exterior zone 1, our field. What is our equation and what are we coming up with?
So we've got our corners.
18.
There we go.
Simple. This has actually been easy, really easy. And whatever's left over, for now. And whatever's left over, guys, is our prime, our prime, zone 1 prime, which is our interior field, right? So once again, like Wally said, when you guys get your calculations, depending on your building and whatnot, that'll determine your fastening pattern. So we got it, guys. It was real simple. It actually was the easiest. You guys actually did better than my kids, so this is pretty awesome. But other than that, Mr. McCabe, what else do we got on this, brother?
Well, you were going to show them a little array of light, right?
Yes. Yes. Wally, you want to talk about this, brother, man? It's about the parapet walls.
Oh, parapet walls. So now, before you guys, GIS specs before, it didn't matter if it was a parapet wall or not, we required a half sheet. So if we have a zone that has parapet walls are less than 3 feet, we do not need the enhancements around that corner. Zone 3, right?
Zone 3, yeah.
Yes,
The roof, no, but if the roof is greater than 3 feet.
Yeah, greater than 3 feet. I'm sorry, greater than 3 feet around this building. So to throw a curveball at you, let's say we got a building here and we've got parapet wall around 3 sides of this. So Stephen, do you have that other, or are you going to draw it on here? So let's say I've got a gutter edge at the back end of this building here. I've got parapet wall all the way around this. I do not need the corner enhancements wherever I meet those walls. Now, having said that, wherever this drip edge is or gutter edge here that Steven's drawing, I do need the corner enhancements down there. If that makes sense to you, because hopefully that makes sense to you guys. This drawing is kind of tough to tell. It's tough to draw a parapet wall and make it stand out.
So like McCabe is doing here, right by that gutter.
Yep.
That part is less than 3 feet high. So we need our L shape. Perfect. And up top, with the high point, no L shape required because, like Wally said, the walls are 3 feet high. So that's awesome because the old way we always needed, didn't matter the height of the wall. So this is awesome. Any questions on this one, guys? Because sometimes we do lose people on this one.
You have another question. I see a question in the chat box, Stephen. What was that?
Q&A.
Yes, so gentlemen, there's a question that says, is the height of the building the height for the highest point or the lowest point of, or an average?
That's a very good question. It would be now, again, our buildings are different. So the highest point of the building, now let's say you could throw another one. Let's say I got a high point of the building, I got a monitor or another penthouse. So the calculation could change for that even, depending on the height of the building. So the parapet has to be along both legs of the corner.
Yes, that's correct, Jack.
Yes. Hopefully we answered that question, Stephen.
And it's also, like you said, it's going to be determining on that job, right?
And like if a building's on an escarpment, let's say you got a building on the edge of a cliff. Well, on one side you've got a parking lot, say you're 30 feet. Well, that cliff could be 100 feet. That has bearing on it also.
And we wish we could give you the answer on that, but we can't because all different variables.
Believe me, people in the honest, we struggle with this too. Like, this has got to be pretty simple, right? Just give us a formula. That's all we need to know. But it's a lot more complicated. It's complicated, but it's not.
Nobody wants to put their name on it, though, right?
True. I'll put your name on it.
We'll put McCabe's. We said McCabe.
So no enhancements on corner of wall is 3 feet or corner and perimeter.
So no corner enhancement, no L shape on corners where the wall is greater than 3 feet.
And we got some mock-ups we're gonna go over and show you guys. It might help you better understand it because if you guys are like us, you can look at these diagrams all day long. I'm the type of guy I want to see it laid out. I want to see somebody put their hands on it and actually lay it out for me. So we're gonna do that here shortly.
Okay, so Chino is now happy because he doesn't have to do corners enhancements all the time. But in addition to that is the design of the roof. So I know the first time we were looking at Zone 1 Prime, Zone 1, all that stuff was very confusing us. To give you some examples, though, is that the Zone 1 of that roof, meaning 1 being the exterior, or the interior Zone 1 Prime may change depending on the building. So in this building, the same size building, it's going to be 100 feet by 200 feet, but we're going to look at the variable of either it's 30 feet, 45 feet, or 60 feet. So the first one is, you can see it's really looks like what we've been doing. You take 30 feet of the height, 30 foot high building, take 0.6 of it and you get that 18 feet length for the corner, and then you have that 6 feet for the width of the corner. Then you have the 18 feet for Zone 2, 18 feet for Zone 1, and then everything left over for Zone 1 Prime. So that's at 30 feet. But now if we go up higher at 45 feet, okay, when we multiply it by 0.6, now the corner length is 27 feet. So that's 0.6 of the height. So now you can see 1 Prime gets eaten up, okay? Because 27 at Zone 2, sticking out, and then you add in another 27 feet for Zone 1, it eats up Zone 1 Prime, so it doesn't exist. Now, we take that same dimensions, and we turn it up a notch and go up to 60 feet high, and look what happens is those corners, the Zone 3s have gotten so much larger. Zone 2 is so much larger because now it's at 36 feet, and Zone 1 now is pretty small at 28 feet.
Hey, Steven, can I say something real quick on this one too, brother?
Absolutely.
So you guys see the second diagram, or the one in the middle. Sometimes you're going to come into a situation, and we actually ran into it in our mock-ups here. where the zone prime 1 is so small, just it wasn't worth trying to figure it out and try to find out what that zone 1 was at. So what we did ourselves on our mock-ups is just we advanced it and did the whole thing as zone 1 and eliminated the prime, because it was just easier for us, because once again, we're roofers. We want to simplify it for ourselves, right? So that's another option, right? You can't go less, but you can go more. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we're going to take the opposite of approach this time, and we're going to look at roof zone 1, see what happens when the building height stays consistent at 30 feet, but now the width of the building goes from 100 feet to 60 feet and then down to 30 feet. So the first one, 100 foot wide, you can see 30 feet high, you have that zone 1 prime, the zone 1, zone 2, pretty much the same exact example we've been looking at. But now we're going to go to 60 feet high, 60 feet wide, and you can see zone 1 prime is gone. And then we drop down to 30 feet wide, and zone 1 is gone. So the shorter the width of the building may change the layout of the building when it comes to zone 1 prime, so on and so forth. So you want to keep that in mind, is zone 1 is a variable that may or may not take place on any given building based on either the height or the width of the building. So now there is some additional things we need to keep in mind is, what about the corners? So with ASC 7-16, not all corners require enhancements. So what do we mean by that is in the first rule for ASC 7-16 is inside corners do not require corner enhancement. So I'm going to call that out. You can see in the diagram right here, you do not need corners or a zone 3 at this location because it's an inside corner. Now, rule number 2, outside corners with an offset less than 0.6 of the height does not require corner enhancement. So if I go all the way to the top of my screen, you see a 15 foot 15 foot long offset. Well, that's less than the 18 foot offset. So therefore, no corner is required at that location. The third rule is outside corners with an angle change of greater than 135 degrees does not require corner enhancement. So I'm going to look at the first one is we're going to require it because, as you can see there, it is less than 135 degrees. So because it's less than 135 degrees, we need that zone 3, we need that corner enhancement. But if you notice the next one, the one in the middle of the screen, you do not have zone 3 because the angle is greater than or equal to 135. So with that said, that kind of wraps up some of the different rules. Now, we're going to take a look at mechanically attached now. And so, Chino, what is the big thing we want to take away from this?
So, Stephen, I know Joan's going to talk about this a little bit more as well on her end. But guys, so we're used to crisscrossing our 5-foot rolls, correct? To do our corner enhancement. And as you can see, that's what we're used to with 7-10, right? So we enhanced our corner, right? The only problem with that, Stephen, is, well, actually 2 problems. It depends if you're doing an FM job. You can't actually throw those 5-foot rolls.
Depending on which way the deck runs.
Yeah, depending on which way the deck runs. You can't run it with the deck, right? That's 1. And 2, something huge to me, Stephen, is a lot of waste, man. So much membrane that we're wasting in that corner. It's money that I'm losing, right, as a sales guy, right? So we want to go with that L shape. And once again, Mrs. Jones is actually going to talk about that a little bit more on her end.
Oh, Joan raised her hand.
Oh, she did?
Yep.
Miss Joan raised her hand.
I didn't mean to. Sorry. I was trying to turn off the chat box.
Well, you were falling asleep and actually hit that by accident, right?
Right. Sorry.
So, pretty much, guys, we're going to kind of eliminate the overlapping, right? Because once again, that's just too much.
That's a train wreck. Right?
That's a train wreck. That's so much money that I'm losing as a contractor, correct? Just labor and all the fastening. Lot of wasted material, right? So we're actually going to show you guys not methods, but something similar. And once again, is Ms. Joe going to talk now, Mr. McCabe, or after we're done with our mock-ups?
After your mock-ups.
Okay. So once again, guys, we have and excuse our mock-ups. We once again we arts and craft. We didn't go to school for
No.
But
Right.
so once again, guys, we do have our zones here. You know, our zone 3 with our L shape, right? Zone 2, our perimeter. Zone 1, our field, and our zone 1, our prime, right? So once again, we're just kind of trying to give you a layout of this an adhered system, kind of in a way on our fastening and our pretty much our measurements. Once again, these all match up with this with the perimeter. All right. So we want to show the next one, Mr. Brown.
You want to talk about these are all 10 footers, right?
And yes, these are all 10 foot for an adhered system, right?
Yep.
So guys, that's another thing. Thank Wally. Just keep guys in mind. This is all 10-foot sheets. Stuff could change if you guys are using 12-footers, right? So that's why, once again, everything is different depending on what size membrane you're using, right? If it's 10 or 12-footers, or even 8-footers, right? So now we're here. Once again, we kind of did the same thing on the video, on that diagram that Mr. McCabe showed. Once again, we're wasting nasty material right here. Labor, material. It's just, to me, as if I was a sales guy, this would be killing me. This is just a waste. So the way we kind of figure it out to make it easier for ourselves is, once again, we'll run our 5-foot sheets, and then our other 5-foot sheets, we would stop short, fasten it, and weld them. And then all we would do is mechanically attach. Once again, this is mechanically attached, guys, all right? So that's why we're going to talk about just mechanically attached. I would mechanically attach fasteners through my membrane and strip this in, right, to get my L shape.
Again, this is based on a 30-foot high building.
30-foot high
So
building.
our L's 18-foot wide, 18-foot long, 6-foot wide.
So once again, we're going through the membrane, right? So that's what we want to do. All right. Any questions with this, Mr. McCabe? Anybody have any comments?
No comments. There was a question earlier. So, how does fastening change for the different zones? So, I know, Wally, we can't give necessarily a specific answer for the building, but can you just explain how because you're using perimeter half sheets or the corner enhancements, how that actually increases the number of fasteners there?
Well, Wally, actually, we got a delivery here for material, so he needed to step up real quick. But so, Mr. McCabe, so pretty much with our zones, right? Once again, not trying to get too far into the weeds, right? We already have a different fastening patterns in the systems because we're using our 10-footers in the field, right? And our perimeter, we went down from 10-foot sheets to 5-foot sheets. So we already enhanced our perimeter, right? And once again, the way we're doing it here is with our L-shaped fingers, correct? So you even beef it up even more, right? So once again, it's I would love to give you guys a magic number, but we can't, right? It's going to be job by job basis, Mr. McCabe, and pretty much depending on the wind uplift they're trying to achieve or whatnot. So I don't know if I answered that question properly.
No, that's correct. We're adding, because of the spacing, we're increasing the number of fasteners. So I think that answers this question. If not, anonymous attendee, please feel free to follow up on that.
And yes, I would strip this in with our 8-inch strip, guys, that we actually have. That was a question that just came up. So once again, go through your fasteners down in and just strip it in with our 8-inch rolls. You know, all right? Anything else, Mr. McCabe? Move on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So my next one here, Steven, is once again, I'm doing, let's say, a project where mechanically attached. I can't use 5-footers because I can't go the same direction as the metal deck, correct? So I did something a little bit different here. Once again, I have my 5-foot sheets, right, from a gutter end, from one wall to the next, right? I apologize for the glare, everyone. Then what I started doing here, Mr. McCabe, I started dropping down my 10-foot rolls. but I'm missing my 5-foot rolls on the side, right? So what I did here is ran my 10-footers from wall to wall, right? Let's say that it's just my custom rolls. I got them custom sized to this roof itself, right? So now what I'm going to do is just to enhance my perimeter. Once again, in the middle of my roll, I'm going to drop some fasteners down. Once again, and then doing my fingers, right? Same thing with this corner. Like I said, I know I sound like a broken record. Miss Jones is going to talk a little bit more about the corner here. Same thing here. I drop some fingers here for enhancement if I'm doing the ASCE 7-16. True, right? Just in case an architect doesn't really understand it or is not helpful, we gotta do it their way. But once again, we're dropping fasteners down and then we're stripping it in. So now we have our zone 3, our zone 2, and right here we only got one zone 1 because our roof wasn't big enough. So we ate up the center of the zone here. So once again, this is just using our fingers to do the enhancement. We good with this one? Any questions?
There was actually from Jack, which I think is a great question. So, Gina, we're basing on this that you have an 18-foot perimeter, and because it's 18 foot, you have to go to 4 perimeter sheets, right? Because less, if you went with 3, it would be 15 feet. His question is wondering if I'm using 12-foot wide sheets and then I go use 6-foot perimeter sheets, how many perimeter sheets would he need? That would be exactly 3 then, right?
So Mark Lenneman here is he's huge with using those rolls, right? If I'm starting to do the ASCE 7-16, depending on my dimensions on my roof, it's going to determine if I'm going to go with 12-footers or 10-footers, right? For my perimeter, if I'm doing a mechanically attached roof system, right? So if I'm doing that equation, Mr. McCabe, you're 100% right. I'm going to go with 6-foot sheets. So instead of installing 4 half sheets, I'm only installing 3. That cuts down on my labor, right? So that to me is huge, and that's thinking outside the box, right? Because that's pretty much the name of the game, is thinking outside the box to still try to get that spec and get that warranty. So that is awesome. So yeah.
But there is one caveat, though. Going to a wider sheet may change your attachment rate, though, in order to meet the uplift pressures, though, correct?
Touche. But once again, we'll show you some links and some things you guys could use so someone could help you out with that so you can actually have your numbers that you need, right? At the same time, you got to balance it out. What works best for you? And to me, to be honest with you, what was more important to me is, yes, to get that spec, to get the customer what they needed. But I needed to make sure that my boys out in the field knew what I needed to get that warranty and to make that customer happy, right? I'm trying to make it as simple as I can for the guys on the roof that are roofing in 100-degree weather, right? Or like it is in Chicago right now. What is it, like 10 degrees outside? So once again, I'm trying to simplify it for my boys out on the roof, right?
Absolutely. So now, Chino, I'm still confused. There may be some people still confused out there. Would you mind introducing our special guest, the most amazing Joan Crow? Could you introduce her?
So, guys, I have had the honor of working with this lovely lady for this year, and she's a joy to work with. She's so intelligent that makes me feel like I need pretty much little scissors for kids when I'm doing my cutting, because she makes me look like an idiot a lot of the times. But she's a genius, and I love working with her. So the one and only Mrs. Joan Crow, guys. Is she there? Did she leave? There she is.
I'm here. I'm here. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. All right,
She fell asleep on us again.
No, my things aren't working. All right, let me know if you can see my. Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, awesome. All right. So thanks for having me, guys. Again, don't shoot the messengers. This is not something GAF wanted to do to you guys. It's required by code, and as we told you, as Steve told you, that you have to make sure it is been adopted in your jurisdiction. Anyway, without any further ado, I'm going to go over an example of a mechanically attached system. Okay, and again, using what's called prescriptive enhancements. So I picked Chicago. That's where I live. That's where Wally and Chino live. So I figured, what the heck? I picked, of course, let's stay consistent. I picked a 30-foot tall building And I made the dimensions to kind of follow what Wally and Chino used, which is a 100-foot by 100-foot building. And again, using 10-foot sheets and 5-foot half sheets. So the basic equation for wind design is that you want the design wind loads, those calculated values, the thing that the structural engineer figured out, to be less than or equal to a rated roof system. And a wind rated roof system is a system that has been tested in a lab, and then it's tested to failure, and whatever that number it tested at, that's what it's rated. Okay, so when it fails, we know that's the capacity of the roof system. So you want that number to be greater than obviously what you've calculated out for the system. All right, so now you're asking, where do I get these numbers? So for new construction, there should be a designer. The architect and or structural engineer should be showing you wind data information on your drawings and your specifications. And keep in mind, this is required by code. And if anyone needs it, again, give me a call or give me an email, and I'll show you where it is in the IBC. But they are required to give that wind load data. Contractors should not be doing math like that, so always bug them for the information. Now, say you're in a re-roofing situation and you are the designer, which again I get nervous about. There are 2 online calculators to help you. There's of course RoofNav, which has a calculator. I tend to not like telling people to use it unless it's just an FM job, because FM is an insurance company, so it's going to calculate roof systems that are going to be a lot more conservative. They're going to be higher because they don't want to, they want to make sure the roof stays on, so they kind of beef up the numbers. The other online application is something that I actually helped develop, which is the Nrca's Roof Wind Designer. That's for very simple buildings up to 160 feet, actually. So, but that's something that we kind of wrote for contractors, so that could help you come up with values if you don't want to hire an engineer. And then ultimately, if your building's very complicated or you just don't know what you're doing, I highly recommend that you just find a structural engineer who you can hire as needed. So for my example building, my 100-foot by 100-foot building that's 30 feet tall, I ran some numbers myself. Luckily, I can run some numbers. And here's what I ended up. These are the design pressures I ended up for all the four different zones. For prescriptive enhancements, you use zone 1, the field, the exterior field pressures as your baseline, okay? So here it is, 47 pounds per square foot. Okay, now you gotta go find a roof system that will meet 47 pounds per square foot. And believe it or not, there are 6 listing services. RoofNav is the most popular, although I always tell people don't always use it, again, because it's gonna give you a little bit higher numbers than you really need. Spry came out with DORA, the direct, not the Explorer, but the Directory of Roofing Assemblies. That one is a user-friendly ratings finder because, again, it's almost like you're on Amazon checking boxes. I find it a lot easier. There's also UL, which is not as easy to find, and then of course there are 3 Gulf State, what I call the Gulf State listing services that a lot of you guys may use, but there are other options. Bottom line, there are other options than to use RoofNav. But since everyone uses RoofNav, I'm going to use that as my example. So you go to the RoofNav website, you go to an assembly search, okay? And how FM rates the roof systems is that they start at 60 pounds per square foot. That's the lowest that they start at, and they increase them in 15 pound per square foot increments. So everyone should be familiar with the 1-60, the 1-75, the 1-90, 105. And those of you in Florida, with the really windy areas that, again, along the Gulf Coast, you're going to need those upper level, the 1 to 135s and 150s. So let's go back to those design values. So we go to zone 1, which is 47 pounds per square foot. So basically we go with 160 system because it's greater than the 47 design, and 60 is the lowest available. So it seems a little high, but that's as low as FM goes. So I did a quick RoofNav search for a 1-60 roof, and I got 10,000 hits, but I went to GAF and chunked it down. So as you can see, if you click on it, here's a wind uplift of 160. And if you click on the securement, you'll see where a row spacing and the fastener spacing. So here is basically what you're going to see for a 10-foot sheet, and the fasteners are 12 inches on center for a 1-60. So, and because this 100-foot by 100-foot is so small, I'm going to ignore 1 prime, right? It's this like dinky little thing. So let's just say we're going to install that 1-60 pattern, which is fastener spaced at 12 inches on center in zones 1 and 1 prime. Okay? So now we want to prescriptively enhance zones 2 and 3, the perimeters and corners, and we're going to use FM's datasheet 1-29 as a guide. So we're basically and GAF follows 1-29 as when you read my guide, you'll see that we follow that. And so what FM says, so you take the fastener row spacing in zone 1, and you cannot exceed 67% of that spacing when you put in your fastener rows in the perimeters. Or they give you the option, just put 1 row of intermediate fasteners in between them. So that makes it easy, right? So that's why we use half sheets. So with a 10-foot sheet, we're going to use 5-foot half sheets, and that makes our row spacing at 50%. This question, and you'll see in red, this question comes up a lot. So I know, can I use a 6-foot half sheet with a 10-foot wide sheet? And the answer is no, because that exceeds that 67% limit that FM gives us, okay? Because I know you guys are going to try to squeeze as much as you can, but unfortunately that doesn't, using a 6-foot wide half sheet with a 10-foot roll does not work. It's not kosher. So for the corners, FM says you can't exceed row spacing that you're using in the field by 50%. And again, going back to the 1 row of intermediate fasteners. Well, we're already at that, right? So, because we're using, again, the 5-foot sheets. So, since we are 50% in the perimeters and the corners, it's okay, and we can actually ignore those L-shaped corners. But as Chino mentioned, you might get an architect or you might get a building official who doesn't completely understand how this all works, so they may require you to follow that L shape. But we've determined, and so has FM, that for mechanically attached systems, you can't ignore that L-shaped corner. So here's where you're at, is that you can run your membrane, your half sheets all the way over. You can save on membrane and cut it short. As you can see, I have what I'm drawn here. The fasteners are 12 inches on center everywhere. And so the increased fastening is because you're decreasing the row spacing in perimeters. Okay, and then again, if we haven't, and I added the equation one more time to determine the number of half sheets for that perimeter, so it's 0.6. So if you guys don't leave this webinar by not knowing the 0.6, you were half asleep or needed coffee. So in this case, a 30-foot tall building requires 4 rows of 5-foot half sheets. And that's pretty much it. So hopefully I didn't confuse everybody after all that. But again, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Joan. I appreciate you helping us out. And as Chino said, it's always a pleasure to work with you. So thank you so much, Joan.
Thank you, Joan. Stephen, I saw somebody raising their hand a couple times. I don't know if it was a mistake or if they had a question. Did you see anything? No?
Nope, I don't see anything. I know Anton asked if spacing of fasteners will depend on the height of the building. Anton, that's going to be based on the uplift pressures that are required. So that's what Joan just went over. So hopefully that answered your question. So with that said, let's go over just a few of the takeaways from today. And those takeaways being, I'm going to share it right now. Key takeaways is, remember, 0.6 of the height. I know Joan mentioned it. We're all talking about it a lot, but really, if you can get that formula done, 90% of your install or your questions are going to be answered. Now, there are some stuff that we cannot deal with, because it's either a structural engineer, as she pointed out, or the designer of the building needs to provide those uplift pressures. So a lot of times that's not on us, but if we can understand the 0.6 and the 0.2 for zone 3, 0.6 for the perimeter, and 0.6 for the zone 1, we at least know how to lay out that roof. Parapet wall greater than 3 feet. Remember, no corner enhancement, no inside corners, and no outside corners if the offset is less than 0.6 of the height. And last but not least, no outside corner if greater than 135 degrees. So just some key takeaways. Chino, I'm going to turn it over to you. Any final comments?
So yeah, just guys, I know sometimes this gets a little complicated, but just like everything, just keep working at it. Keep tuning into future webinars because we got the next 2 coming up on pretty much adhered and rhino bond. But just for us, we constantly need to look at that PDF that we gave everybody, just to start understanding it a lot better. It takes a lot. It's not too complicated, but it's something you guys got to keep practicing on, and please use GAF as a resource to help you guys out if you guys have questions. That's about it, brother.
Did you put Jones' home phone number up there?
Dave Scott's.
Dave Scott's.
He likes being called after 10 o'clock at night.
So a couple questions. Jeff Burns, if zone 1 calculated pressure was 47, would we need a 105 rated system because of safety factor, or do you not need a safety factor? No, if you saw, she had a caveat that she already included the safety factor in that number. She had a safety factor of 2, so she had already had that built in to get that 47. So I hope that answers your question. So the answer is yes, you need a safety factor, but it won't. She already built it in. Okay, great. I got that, Jeff. Can Jonah go over the FM fingers? Unfortunately, we had a limited amount of space to get Joan in, so she unfortunately left. But it would be the same criteria: is the attachment rate that you got and the number of perimeter sheets that she went over. You would use that. So whatever the distance of the perimeter sheets that you covered, you would actually extend that far in, like Gino was showing earlier. With that said, we have one more comment. Dave Scott says, "I hate Gino." So Gino, it looks like you have a fan. With that said, tomorrow we are going to go over adhered. So come back. Now, some of it, if you missed the first part, some people missed the first part. Some of it's going to be very similar to what we covered today. But now we're going to target adhered, and that's when the L shape is definitely going to come in, playing a factor when it comes to that zone 3. So nice thing mechanically attached is the zone 3, may or may not be necessarily that important, even though you have a boatload of perimeter sheets or half sheets compared to what we're used to. But zone 3, as Joan covered it, is based on the uplift pressures. You may or may not need that zone 3, which may help us, right? Adhered zone 3 will definitely be a factor. So with that said, we hope to see you tomorrow. Now, we're going to stay on a little bit longer if you have any questions. But let's talk about training credits and certificates. If you are a GAF Master Elite, Master Select, or Master Contractor, then you can get training credits so you can get your Training Excellence Award for your company. If you are not Master Elite, Master Select, or Master, it doesn't matter. You can still get a certificate for attending this, or if you're distribution or a non-GAF contractor, everybody can get a certificate if you want. So what you want to do is to get to register for that certificate, open up your camera browser and hover over the QR code, and a link will pop up. Don't take a picture of it, just click on that link. Now that's for an iPhone. If you have an Android, though, unfortunately, you will have to take a picture of it and then add it to your QR reader. Option number 2 is you can put in, I'm gonna type in the URL link, so you can go ahead and just type that, click on that in the chat box. And then option number 3 is you can send a text message. Either one will work, so feel free to use any one of those 3 options to get to the registration. Now, once you're there, you will need to fill out a couple items, and those items include your company name. Once again, very important if you want those training credits. As you start filling it in, let it auto-populate and then click on the one that's your company name. If you fill it in and you don't fill it in the way it's supposed to, you may not get those training credits. So I know one company did all lowercase letters. They didn't have a space between initials, and out of it, there was about 5 people that attended. Only one person got a training credit out of it. So just make sure. Now, once again, if you're not looking for training credits, you can put in your company name any way you want. First name, last name, please double check it. Sometimes they do some funky things with names, so make sure you verify that you type that in accurately. And lastly, email. Every time I always see about 2 or 3 people that don't fill out their email. You can't get a training certificate and you can't get training credit unless an email is. It's not for spamming purposes. It's just purely for your certificate. Once you fill that out, you're going to end up to this page, videos. So there's a whole bunch of videos about installing that Dave and Chino and Wally have done. There's Roofing It Right. There's also the Spanish version of Roofing It Right. So great stuff that you can see in videos. There's manuals, the Pro Field Guide, the spec books, courses, all the courses that are coming up. Contact us if you want to know more information from your territory manager. Just click on that. You'll enter in your zip code, as you can see on the right hand of the screen, and that will tell you whatever. And last but not least is the learning portal. In this learning portal, it will give you all the videos, a lot of the pre-recorded webinars. This one will probably not go in there, just so you know. I know there's going to be a lot of questions. Hey, can we get a copy of this? No, not this one. They're talking about doing another one in the future. So there's still things changing, and we're still figuring things out. So in the future, they're probably going to add one to the learning portal for that. With that said, if you want to get to the learning portal, though, www.gaf.com/learning. Branch code is GAF. So with that said, we'll stay on a little bit longer if you have any questions. We really appreciate you coming by today. We have a virtual webinar this afternoon, an interactive one with your cameras where you're invited to have your cameras on. And we're going to go over the introduction to estimating. So if you're new to estimating or want to learn more, we'll be in there later this afternoon. So with that said, thank you, everybody. I'm going to turn it over to Chino and Wally. Chino and Wally, any final words?
I think you got it, Mr. McCabe.
Good job. Thank you, guys, and see you hopefully tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Wally. It's a pleasure.
Not you, Stephen Gore. I already thank you, Mr. McCabe.